No,
I know.
no, I'm with.
Podcast movement.
Hello, folks. Welcome from Podcast Movement for our special edition of Social Media Live. And that's Doc Rock, the amazing Doc Rock. Are we live, Doc?
Are we live right now?
You're live?
You're live on Instagram.
Testing. Doc is
Hold on.
Testing.
Hold on.
talk amongst yourselves if you can hear me.
Talk amongst yourselves, everyone. We're just here hanging out
Right.
with our friends.
It's not come. Tell everybody before they start telling you to say stuff that we know it's not coming on the right sound.
All right. Doc says he knows the sound is messed up, but Doc is a pro and he's fixing it. So we will
We're
start
watching
in just a
live
second. If you're
video
wondering who
now.
this man is to my right, that's Angel, who's our first guest because he's so important. We have to book him ahead of time, and he, like we can't look him right in the eye either. So,
No,
and
no.
he only gets green M&Ms. So if you ever meet him, just kind of nod and slowly back away.
I'm picking you up from the camera. All right, you can keep going.
All right, picking this up with the camera. So we're here. We're gonna go live here in a minute. I mean, we are live, but we have sound ready.
Beauty of live.
We'll be actually professional here in a minute. No.
No, we won't.
Okay.
No way it is. So let us know where you, if you guys can hear us
They can hear you
from
from the camera.
the camera. Where are you watching from?
Sabrina says sound is good.
Hey, Sabrina. They're hearing us from the camera. Yeah. Doc has a different quality.
Doc has a different level of sound.
Yeah, that's the other. So, hey, Chris.
Chris,
Yeah.
I said I know what not to say that, and you said it anyways.
Chris, we know the handheld is free, but it helps my
These are just decorative.
That's right.
We just need to do something with our hands.
We're branding it for Ecamm.
It's branding. It's branding. Yeah.
We need to do anything, Doc? Oh, it's rebooting.
It says never be professional.
Never be professional. So, Lancaster, welcome, David. Yes, Elisa, thank you. We can barely hear you. So I know we're getting it fixed, Elisa. Just pet your cat.
Pet your cat.
She's got cats. She's got tons of cats. That's how she gets calm. You calm her down. Let her
I thought pet your cat was like some sort of weird like.
No,
pose, like-
it's a Pinterest thing.
It's a Pinterest thing. You
She's
can't.
from Pinterest.
You can't just say it's a Pinterest thing.
Yes, thanks, Paul, for letting me know. We're getting ready. Are we good? We are good. All right, let's try this again.
Doc
Welcome.
Rock is the man.
He is. Welcome again from Podcast Movement in Dallas, Texas, Grace's hometown. We are here having a lot of fun and learning a lot, but I'm going to start the show like we normally do, so I have a great cut for the podcast because we are at Podcast Movement, so here we go. Hello, folks. Welcome to Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff C. And you're not.
And I'm Grace Duffy, and this is the show that keeps you up to date on the world of social media. And today,
you go ahead and say your line, because we don't have my...
We don't have our script. I don't have a Google Doc to yell at you through.
Yes,
The
that's
cue
very
cards
true.
are right there.
The cue cards are right there. The monitor's right there.
Right.
We are live from Podcast Movement 2022 here in Dallas, Texas, which is my neck of the woods and your neck of the woods adjacent.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of.
I don't live here, though.
You don't live here. No, he won't claim it.
Yeah.
And we've got a great lineup of guests for you today, starting with none other than the...
Lou Mongello. Lou, tell everybody, what your podcast is, where they can find you, what you do, and all the stuff.
That's a lot. So my name is Lou Mongello. I am the host of WDW Radio. It is a podcast since 2005, all about the Disney parks and movies and Disney Cruise Line, anything sort of under the Disney sun. I started off, I was a recovering attorney, wrote a few books about Disney, and being very fortunate to sort of talk about my passion every single day.
So, if you don't know, Lou is like an OG podcaster.
Yes.
So, how long have you been podcasting? Like, how many episodes have you put out, actually?
So I started in about April of 2005, and all told, with my first show and then this show, I'm over 1,000 episodes. I'm like 697 for
Wow.
WDW Radio, yeah.
So, really quickly, because one of the things, if you haven't followed Lou or his podcast, he does live shows on Wednesday nights, but he also, his podcast, and it's not just the same thing every week. That he's got interviews with Imagineers, he does food reviews in the park, he takes you out in the park and talks about things. So, when you plan your show, because there's a lot of variety.
There's a lot.
I mean, because it's almost different every week. So, is that part of your strategy when you go out, or is it like, hey, it's a nice day, it's not raining, I'm going to go?
There's a lot to break down here.
Okay.
Right? So, one, in 17 years, I've never repeated a topic, which has nothing to do with me. It shows that there's such a broad spectrum of things we can discuss sort of in the Disney world. I laughed a little bit when you talked about my planning and strategy. Let's sort of break that down a little bit, because usually it's like Sunday, oh my God, I need an episode out tomorrow, what should I talk about? The beauty of what I do and what I think we as independent content creators do is I've always created a show that I would want to listen to,
Yes.
right? And hopefully somebody else out there does too. So if I feel like talking about the latest Marvel movie, something happening in a Disney park, going to do a live dining review, which we have to do one day.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Because we all love to eat.
Yes.
Obviously, we're wearing black for a reason.
Great slimming.
And this is very airy for a reason.
But it's talking about the things that make us happy about going to Disney World and the Disney parks, and connecting people to experiences that maybe they can't get to as often as they would like.
Gotcha. So we're at Podcast Movement. We've seen some great sessions. We've learned a lot. It's always good to get a refresher, learn new techniques and tactics. If somebody was starting out in podcasting the first time, what advice would you give them? Because you've done a lot. You've made mistakes, and you've figured out ways around certain problems. What would you tell a beginning podcaster when they're first starting out?
It's the overly obvious, but it's true. Like, you have to do a show that not that you think will be successful, or you've read that this is the blueprint or the strategy. You have to do a show that you would want to listen to. One, because you shouldn't be thinking about your first 3 or first 10 episodes. You need to think about the sustainability of what you are doing. And I've been having people say, well, what's your exit strategy? I'm like, when this stops being fun is the day that I stop doing it, because otherwise it becomes a job.
Yeah.
Right? I still love what I do. I love putting the show together. I love researching the topics, and then the most important thing for me, is the community that is built around the show.
Right.
So being here at Podcast Movement, what has been a big takeaway that you're going back to the office, because this is fun, not a job. It is our job, but fun. What is a big takeaway that you will be bringing back to the office after leaving Dallas this weekend?
It's really interesting, because I'm in sort of this, as we're getting close to the end of the show, we start to kind of decompress and break down and look back at our notes and our pictures of all the things. It's interesting how some topics continue to sort of be discussed, right?
Yeah.
The importance of community. Monetization is another one. Taking some of the new strategies and tactics, and I think continuing to leverage them more. Like, I never started my show with, this is a great way to make money. because should not be the reason why you get into podcasting.
Yes.
But it is other ways that I can nurture and love on, and I care less about growing the community than being present and serving the community the best that I can with creating content in the way that not only they are the most comfortable consuming, but is going to bring them value and, like I said, make them happy.
Yeah.
So you said my favorite words. And by the way, if you're not following Lou on his live show on Wednesday night, so I didn't really care about, Disney, but I wanted to learn how to do community, and so I started watching Lou's show, and then he sucked me in, and I cannot leave. It's like a vortex or a black hole. You just, once you get in the gravity.
That's the strategy. How to suck people into
and keep
the
them
vortex.
In. Yes, you can quote me on that. It's a T-shirt. But community, and a lot of times community is really, really hard to build on a podcast. So I'd like you to talk about maybe some tips for podcasters how to build community, because there's that download kind of
right.
Keeping people away, and then talk about why you love live video and the community aspect there.
So, community is interesting because it's really become sort of the hot buzzword. And I think people think of community, they're like, oh, my Instagram or my Facebook group. It's not, I'll do a Marvel thing. Asgard isn't a place, it's a people, right? Your community isn't your Facebook group, it is the people who are in it. So pre-Facebook, I had a discussion forum. I ran an old V-Bulletin discussion forum. It didn't matter when I moved from there to Facebook. They were willing to come because it didn't matter where the conversations were taking place, is that they were taking place together. You need to make people feel as though they belong by making them not just be consumers of the show, but almost active participants in it, whether it's reading their emails, having them on as guests. And then that's one of the things that live video has done. I've been doing live video weekly since 2007. I love not just what's happening real time, but that you get. It's not put out a podcast and then we're sitting back and waiting.
Yeah.
The comments are coming in real time, so you can really have conversations with people.
So
we're watching them right now, coming through on Ecamm.
Right. So Catherine says, love what he said, focus on serving your community, and you won't have to worry about growing your community. So I think that's really cool. So I want to dive just real quick in some tactics, because I know on your podcast, you have a number where people call in, and at the end of your show, a lot of times you play those things like voicemail almost, which activates your community. Is there things for podcasters or live video, like specific calls to action to get your community engaged that you like to do?
I think it's involving them in the experience, right? So they are not just consumers of it. And the idea of the voicemail is not just so they can, look, the reason why I started podcasting is because the medium is so much more powerful. You can hear the emotion in voice.
Yes.
Plus, I'm a horrible typist. It's why I don't blog. But it's that old school radio. We used to call into the radio station, and then you heard your voice on the radio. You're oh my God, we all.
Yes.
It's the same thing, because it's not a tactic, but that's what happens. People will say they'll hear their voicemail or on the show, and they want to go and tell other people that my voicemail was on this show that is so meaningful to me. And that's, to my community, the growth happens organically, not through ads, not through funnels and tactics, but because people who love the show and hopefully in turn love you are telling their friends, you need to come and be part of this as well.
So on your podcast or your live show, do you try to move them? I know you have a couple different communities on Facebook and stuff. So are you really strategic on where to move them? Because, it's one of the comments says you have to be part of that conversation as the creator. So you can't just post a podcast and run.
Without a doubt. You need to be very, very present, and not just a conversation starter, but, Jeff, I talk about this all the time. You need to care at scale and understand that every download, every number that's in the community, there's a human being on the other side that is giving you their most valuable commodity, which is their time. And if somebody is going to send you an email, DM you, tweet you, post in your Facebook group, you need to give them the courtesy of a personal response, and you need to be present. And it shouldn't be something that is a chore. It should be something that you want to do because it is part of that conversation, because you have, like I said, you need to genuinely care about every single person that's in there. And I think that's, for a lot of people, the disconnect. I've created my Facebook group, I have these prompts, conversations are happening, but they themselves are not present there.
And you can tell that you do a really great job because you see the way that people love on you. Just being around Lou this whole week, people are just like, Lou, I love you, or we love Lou. Obviously.
He also gives out candy sometimes.
He also gives out
You never
candy.
know.
That's
the main
creepy.
reason.
That's creepy. But
So, on your podcast, let's talk about like the reason why. So you usually do interview shows, or you bring on your friends, because I've been lucky enough to go on after Wish Cruise and be able to talk. And you seem to bring on people who are your friends or experience something with you. Is that really part of your strategy, or do you do that every time? It's like, why do you do that?
he's using the strategy word again, as if there's some sort of like grand master plan.
I know.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm trying to make you look smart, Lou.
So I will let you in on the not so secret. The people who are forgetting sort of the Imagineer interviews or,
Right,
or
right,
whatever,
right.
but the people who are on the show and who are my friends are people that came from the community.
Yeah.
Right? They are like-minded Disney fans that have something to share, a certain bit of knowledge. Sometimes I get desperate for a guest, so I have Jeff come on.
I know.
Nobody else.
Right.
The bottom of the barrel.
That's how I ended up with a show with him.
That's right.
I was like, I want to do this live
No one
show.
else. I had to press the buttons. That's what I do. I know. It's okay. That's right.
But yeah, so leaning into the community, right? Saying, hey, does anybody have something that they want to share? Or I'm looking to do a show about X.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be surprised how many people who would probably not start a podcast on their own, but would love to be a guest, and sometimes they end up being recurring guests because you've taken that burden of show creation and production off them, and they can focus on the content and the conversation.
And you hit on something really good about live video or even just podcasting is it's always more fun when you have a guest, someone that you really love and truly connect with, and we're just having conversation.
Yeah.
We could be having this conversation outside over breakfast, but we're having it here with all of you
Breakfast.
too.
Why didn't we do breakfast? That would have been great.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's already-
Punch the food thing on your bingo card.
Yeah, we talked about food.
We just talked about
Okay.
food. Okay.
Yeah. I knew Lou from Google Plus. There's another one.
Oh, that was a freebie.
That's a freebie.
That's a freebie.
So, video stuff. So, a lot of the conversation, the podcast movement was video podcasts, and you don't usually, your live show's not a video podcast. It's just a live show. So, what are your thoughts on video podcasting, and would you recommend somebody who's starting out to do that as part of their podcast launch?
It's interesting. Video podcasting, sort of blurring that line between what is the definition of a podcast, right? It was originally audio content that you were able to download onto your Apple, what is it?
Device. Or
whatever
Zoom.
your Apple,
Your Zune or your iPod.
Right.
whatever your MP3 player of choice was. And are you a video content creator, right? Is that what you're looking to do, or are you using video to support your podcast, right? So I use live video as support of the show, right? We can talk about this week's show. I do my show, it comes out Sunday or Monday. On Wednesday night, we can talk about that week's episode with people who are able to sort of give their feedback in that way. I don't push it out onto the feed because that's different. It's not right. For me, it's about consuming the audio content, this very personal, very intimate experience that allows you to do other things while you're listening to the podcast, as opposed to video where you sort of need to give a little bit more attention. And hopefully, because of the interactivity I'm trying to build into live video, you really are present, and I hate to use the buzzword, but you're engaged as well.
Yeah.
So some cool things you've been doing, and I want to talk about this, is, and it's different, you don't have the same thing, you're like, okay, let's talk about the show each week. So you've been doing this trivia stuff that's really, really fun, and like games where you activate your audience. So talk about why you did that, and if it's been successful for you or not.
Yeah, so the idea has always been, especially with the live video, and even with the show, this is not for me to talk at you.
Yeah.
It's to talk with you.
Yes.
And finding ways to make it fun, make it interesting, make it engaging, especially sometimes people, whether it's real life or even while they're watching a live video, might just want to sort of sit back and not be as participatory. Mixing things up and having things built in like trivia not only makes it fun, but it's that same thing when you see your name up on the leaderboard, or that personal pride of getting that really difficult trivia question right. I give away prizes all the time too, just as fun rewards for people. And it's not just about getting the thing, it's I won this week's trivia contest.
Yeah, and it's cool. And people, they brag about that stuff. So
Yeah.
they put it in the thing. So we don't want to keep Lou too much because he's got to go sign autographs and take all these pictures and selfies.
He's got to get back to his entourage.
That's right.
His Disney entourage.
So, I know, Grace, you want to do some
We
rapid
have
fire
some
questions?
rapid fire questions for you, Lou.
Oh, no,
okay?
I'm nervous. Okay.
All right, ready? Phone call or text?
Text.
Go-to karaoke song?
You do not.
It's from Greece. It's from Greece.
No, it's not from Greece.
It's
I
from
have.
Greece.
If my life depended, I have my one song. But trust me, of all the things you don't want to see or hear, me singing is top of that list.
What song, though?
I'm not telling you. Move on.
Move on.
You
Yeah,
missed
move on.
the text message.
My
It's
lawyers
not-
are giving you
okay.
the. Yeah.
Is it not a? It's not a Disney song.
It is not a Disney song.
Okay.
Wow. All right.
All right,
Although,
because-
oh wait, I take that back. It's not a Disney song, but was actually featured in a Disney movie.
Ah, is that a trivia
Okay,
question?
that's
Do we win prizes?
Dig deep, folks. Figure
Dig
that one
deep
out.
for
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Because we're in Texas, Tex-Mex or barbecue?
Oh, we had both on the
We've
last.
had both over the last few days.
I'm wearing black, hoping that it's slimming.
Right.
Tex-Mex.
What's your favorite day of the week?
Monday.
Monday.
So he's lying when you say it on Wednesday is your favorite day of the week when you do your live
no,
show?
I love because Monday everybody's back to work and I just love like getting into it and
Right.
yeah.
Right. All right.
It's the Monday energy, Jeff. Don't
That's
try to
right.
get him
Yeah.
in trouble.
I'm trying to.
All right. What is the last podcast you listened to besides your own?
What's the name of Jeff's podcast again?
I don't know.
Oh, me neither. Whatever the Jeff C show is called.
Whatever that
that's-
show that Jeff does is.
Yeah. So I don't listen to other Disney podcasts.
You don't.
I don't.
Why is that?
For two reasons. One, because it's what I do every single day. So when I listen to something in my car, I want something unrelated. And if I don't listen to anybody else's show, no one can ever accuse me of taking an idea or stealing content or anything else like that.
That's a good idea.
What do you like to listen to? What type of? You don't have to name a name if you don't want to, but what type?
Business-related stuff.
Business.
Sometimes some nerdy, Lost or
Right.
Battlestar Galactica recap stuff.
Wonderful. Well, there's a big world out there of podcasting, and
Yeah.
you can find what you need.
So, Lou, before there's some comments that people were asking, like, what is the name of your podcast? How to find you? So, why don't you tell people about that?
So the name of my show is WDW, like Walt Disney World, WDW Radio. You can find everything I do on the Disney side of things at WDWRadio.com. I am at Lou Mongello on all the social, and everything I do on the business side in terms of speaking and coaching and mastermind and events in Walt Disney World, which Jeff has come to before, can be found at LouMongello.com.
And also talk about your special event that's coming up that people may want to watch live.
Yeah, so Disney is hosting the D23 Expo in Anaheim, California, September 9th through the 11th. I've been there since the very beginning, back in 2007, broadcasting all 3 days. And you can go to either WDW Radio Live or D23ExpoLive.com. If you can't make it out there, I will take you out and bring the experience to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Lou. Guys, go follow him. Get the podcast. I listen to it all the time. Do you have any spots left on Momentum?
Yes.
So Momentum is his very special, intimate mastermind conference-y thing, limited to 50 people.
Conference-y thing.
I am going to be there speaking. I was there last year. It's phenomenal. It's at Disney World. We're right across the street from Disney Springs. It is so much freaking fun. So if you want to do that, make sure you go back. It's LouMongello.momentum.com.
LouMongello.com, internet. Use internet. LouMongello.com, and there's a link right there for Momentum.
Yeah. So go there and check it out. So thanks, Lou. Appreciate
Thank you
my
guys
friend.
very
Thank
much.
you, Lou.
I love and appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
I really
Thank
do.
you so much for joining us.
So we want to do a big shout out because if you haven't noticed, we are broadcasting from Ecamm's booth.
Yep.
If you want to find out, this is just we're live in the middle of a convention
Yeah.
center, and we're having comments come up. It's going out in high quality. It's just amazing. This program. They're amazing people. If you'd like to find out more about them, go to socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. They also have a new podcast that's coming out. That's been out, and I think they do it Wednesdays,
Yes.
and you can watch it live. But they also find it on your favorite podcasting player. But it's really good. It's all about video podcasting, how to get started, continuing how to grow like that. We're gonna get Megan on now, early because
she's here.
Yeah, Megan, we're gonna have you come on now, Megan.
Megan Powers.
We're gonna have you come on now. Yeah, so we have another amazing podcaster, Megan Powers, is gonna come on and join us right now because just excited to have. We're gonna have a round robin of people coming on the show today. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So, Grace.
I just happen to be in the neighborhood, and so.
No,
Yeah.
no. Actually, what
She was
happened
walking by.
was she came here prompt and ready to go, and we're
Right.
like, we're going to reward that
Right.
because we certainly weren't ready to go.
Right, exactly.
So, Megan, tell us about you and about your podcast and then what you do.
So I have 2 podcasts. We just started season 6 of Making a Marketer. Jeff's been on it. I need to have Miss Grace on
But
it.
your co-host is the amazing Jen Cole, of
She-
course.
right.
Yes. Jen Cole and I have been doing it since August of 17, and then I've gotten hired to host podcasts by a couple of other
Very cool.
businesses, and so my current other show is called Trade Show Talk,
Yeah.
and it's the Trade Show News Network's podcast. So that's fun. That just started in January.
Cool.
Yeah, and I work in the events space,
Right,
so
right.
that's
Yeah.
like in my wheelhouse.
So this is like home to you, being at a conference and on a
Oh,
trade
yeah.
show.
You know,
Yeah.
she knows where all the coffee's at.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask a question because you said you have 2 podcasts.
Yeah.
How do you manage 2 podcasts? Like
Yeah.
how kind of walk us through your process and how you do that. And then, I mean, you record and then there's editing, all that. So kind of walk us through how you do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's 2 shows for each. So it is kind of like I have a weekly,
Okay, gotcha.
even though it's between 2 shows. Well, I mean, I keep a spreadsheet and I just try to like have fresh ideas, and I try to get guests, in as much in advance as I can. But if I'm honest, my planning is right up to the wire. The question
Seems like
writing.
a lot of podcasters are that way.
Well, I
Yeah.
also I have a full-time job, so this
Yeah.
is on top of that. And I have an editor, so
Yeah.
that really helps.
Mm-hmm.
He's amazing, and he turns things around really fast. So I try to have topics that matter to the listeners, that are going to bring value,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I mean, it doesn't feel like work.
Right,
Yes.
right.
To
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I also am very much a film it, post it, or record it, post it
Right.
kind of a person. And I realized while I was here this week that I had one in the can. I'm like, oh, I need to get this. I need to get this published.
Right.
I'm not used to having one
Yeah.
already ready
Right.
to go. So
So what's your criteria for like finding guests? Are
Yeah.
you like always on the prowl? Is there are people reaching out to you and then you're, kind of vetting them? How does that work?
Yeah.
it's a combination of things. It's funny because I thought for a while it was all people I knew.
Right.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I'm going to run out of people I know, but I haven't yet. But also, people have been referred to me. I do get a lot of inbound inquiries, people
Yeah.
trying to get their person
Yeah.
on my show,
Have
and
you
I don't.
have you used any
Have
of
you
those?
ever have you found anyone good that way? Because we get a lot of inquiries too. So, and we're just like,
No,
no.
I haven't. But if I'm honest, I just it depends on how they approach and whether I even chat with them about it or not. But it's not really.
Well, that's a good question though,
Yeah.
because
Right.
as someone that's hosts a show, but then also has had to be on shows as part of a brand, as a brand evangelist, what would be the way that someone should approach you to say, hey, that you would make you open to entertaining them on your show?
Show that you actually have listened to it.
Yes, yes,
That's
yes.
the key thing.
Yeah.
You can tell when they have it.
Totally.
It's like that one time when we got pitched to sell razors.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's not gonna happen.
Oh, the best one. I didn't even tell you about this one, Jeff.
I'm
the
scared
time
to ask.
we got pitched a vegan brand.
Yeah, that's almost as bad as razors.
That's not.
Right.
That's not on.
Nothing
Yeah.
is
No.
wrong
No.
with being a vegan. It's just that Jeff
No,
isn't.
that's
No.
right.
We couldn't talk about it.
I eat food that other food eats. Yeah. So,
Okay.
That's funny. I love it. Yeah.
let's see. Other question. So, 2 podcasts. The way you vet people. How do you edit? Like, is there
Yeah.
a certain software you like to use? And how edit? Like, some people take out every little filler word, and then some people actually, they just let it run and they put a bumper at the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
So this last season I did 3 on my own, and I makeshift clipped and added in the audio. It's
Right,
not
right.
awesome, but my editor does all that. In the beginning, I used to listen to it fully again
Right.
and let him know exactly what I wanted cut out. And sometimes I still have to do that because there may be a little something.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he knows me well enough that he just does it. And he doesn't cut out every but he does cut out quite a bit of
Yeah, yeah.
dead
Yeah.
air.
Right,
and
yeah.
my thing this last season, I have had lots of actually on both the shows. lots of guests who say like a lot,
Yes.
and it's kind of a virus.
It is.
It makes me say it also.
Right.
So I did have one where I messaged him, if you can cut out any of the likes, that would be
And it's
fantastic.
really, I do a lot of podcast editing, and it's really hard because sometimes people say like, and then there'll be enough pause, but sometimes it's like a run-on, like, and it's like you can't cut it without
Right.
it making it sound robotic. So
Right, totally.
you have to listen. I say so a lot if you haven't noticed. Now everybody's going to be like so.
We all have our. we
Yeah, it's all
have
crutch
our-
words.
our
Yeah.
our little filler words.
Yeah.
As
Well-
I try not to say like right now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But so you're editing, so you pass it on to an editor, and they take care of that. What would you tell, just same like we asked Lou, what would you tell somebody who's just getting started
Yes.
in podcasting, like some of the things that, like hacks maybe you have found or pitfalls to avoid? What would you tell somebody who's just getting started?
Well, to be prepared. I mean, I that wasn't a pitfall for me because from the very beginning, so my first foray into podcasting was I got asked to be on a crew of, so it was a team of people, 4 to 6 people at any given time for an audiovisual based podcast. I used to sell AV for live
Right.
events.
Yeah.
So, and they had, most of the other people were permanent install people, places of worship, restaurants,
Right,
whatever.
right.
So he would have me do shows on live events, and the first one I did where we were doing live events, I didn't know I was hosting it.
Oh, okay.
So we
Wow.
had a crew of people, but I was
Yeah.
in charge, and I thought, oh man, if I had known that, I 100% would have prepared questions. So then for everyone I did after that, I was fully prepared. And I mean, I write questions, and there is definitely, I want a certain flow, but I allow for serendipity and for if things take a different turn. Like both my shows are interview shows, and I have guests, and on every other one I have a co-host. So things, sometimes they talk to each other and things take a different
Right.
thing, and I love that.
Right.
I want it to be authentic, but I also want it to be professional, and I don't want, dead air, sitting there looking at each other. What am I going to ask next?
So we always have questions, and I've always done this from the very beginning, even on Google Plus, Chris Stone. And
Drink again.
Yes,
You can have another drink.
That's right. And I would have questions, at least 10 every time I went live. But the most, and Grace and I do this now, is we have a list of questions, but a lot of times the audience will ask something similar or
Right.
really, really close, and we want to use that from the audience, so we'll pull
Right.
their up on screen and use that one, and then we'll cross out. We're doing this dance in the background over on Google Docs where she's like,
Yeah.
he said that already, move on. And I'm like, okay, So I mean,
Same with me and
yeah,
Jen Cole.
yeah,
In fact,
yeah.
our last